What's good, peeps? Welcome back to another Addy and Friends. This is an Addy and Friends special. Well, to be fair, they're all kind of special because it's me, but I brought some really good guests along here to help me talk all things boxing. We have a guy called Henry, a great documentary maker. I'm not going to boost him that much. We've got the man, the legend that is Rob Tebbutt. And we've got Kieran Smith, WBC International Silver 154-pound champion, 16-0. Guys, thanks for joining me. Lots to talk about. First, quick opinion on Jarrell Miller. I'll start with you, Rob. Jarrell Miller failed another drug test. What's your thoughts?
Well, I was supposed to interview Jarrell Miller this weekend.
Oh, boy.
To be honest, I'm not going to sit here and kind of lambast the individual. I think that's the easy way to do things. I think boxing has a problem, has many problems, but one of the biggest problems it has is the rampant use of performance-enhancing drugs. The issue that we've got as a sport is that we create an environment, and by we, I attach my own, I work in the media, and the media, they play a role in this as well, so we have to take some of it. But the sport itself is a toxic breeding ground where anybody can seemingly get away with anything, provided they bring enough money to the table. And the more that happens over a long period of time, the more things like this will happen, the more readily accepted they are to return back into the sport, because there are so many other examples. I think blaming Jarrell Miller, while obviously what he's done is unforgivable, but blaming him and putting all the attention on him, I think, is the easy way out. I think boxing needs to have a look at who is making money from performance-enhancing drugs, and the answer to that is pretty much everybody in some way. Even like indirectly, it doesn't make everybody as culpable as other people. Of course, there are other people who are more to blame, so to speak, than others. But as long as everybody's going to continue to profit off it, it's not going to change. Smacks on the wrist is not going to be enough of a deterrent. If you're going to let somebody back after 6 months, but then ban somebody like Liam Cameron for 4 years, where's the consistency? There's no consistency with anything. Just touching on the documentary, well done, Henry, and well done, Kieran. There's so many things in the sport that are, easier to brush away when there's a lot of money there, that you can circumvent whatever rules and regulations that you need to if there's enough money at stake. And then there's no overseeing regulatory board. There's no commission to stamp it down and say, actually, no, that's wrong. This is wrong. That needs to change. 365-day doping control needs to come in here. And unless that happens, it's not going to change. So I'm not going to sit here and slag Jarrell Miller off, because there's countless fighters, world champions, people who are about to box for world titles, people who have been world champions who have failed 1, 2, 3 drug tests. Mm-hmm. So, it's more a systemic problem that we're facing in boxing, and just kind of bashing out a couple of tweets or writing a few articles or doing a few videos about Miller is just missing the point, in my opinion.
Kieran, what do you think? Fellow boxer. You've obviously been around it a lot. What do you think about Jarrell Miller failing the drug test?
Well, just to touch on what Rob just said there, I think he's just hit the nail right on the head with that, to be honest. It would be easy to slag Jarrell Miller, which, to be honest, yesterday I was the first person to be doing that. But he's hit the nail on the head. That it's a much wider problem, and like he says, there's umpteen world champions who've already failed drug tests, got away with it because of the money side of things. Whereas if it was somebody in my position at the lower end of boxing who'd gone and failed a drug test, I would be banned for, just like Liam Cameron, 4 years or whatever. Whereas when the stakes are higher and the money that they can make is a lot more off that, they kind of brush it under the carpet.
Henry, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it always really reminds me of when Lance Armstrong failed. When he'd finally got busted for the doping he was doing, and how it came out and what kind of initially everyone was sort of quite upset with him because they were like, he doesn't seem sorry at all. You know, he's not really apologizing. I remember he went on Oprah and he had that kind of admission and he didn't seem that bothered. It was quite forced. And it was because it was systemic. And basically his argument was, even though I've been caught, I was just the best at doing it. That's why I won.
Yeah.
But everybody's cheating, everybody's doping, and it's allowed to happen in this system. So literally, doesn't make for very exciting, controversial chat. But the same thing as everybody else. The system is the problem. Now, I'm not going to say like, oh, you know, you shouldn't have a go at Gerald Miller because he has cheated at the end of the day. But you can understand why he's done it. If everybody else is doing it, or if he thinks everybody else is doing it, he's scared he's getting in the ring with someone else who's doped. You know, you're going to dope. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying to think that that's what's going on. Especially like, look at the guy who was going to fight Jerry Forrest. I guarantee you that guy's not doping. He's probably not even had a full training camp. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough.
All right, let's move on from it. I think we could all probably make 2-3 hour long video and talking about steroids in boxing. It's not going to go away. I'm with Rob and I'm with all of you guys. It's just there. I think that's the reaction a lot of people done when yesterday. It's like shrug of shoulders. Well, it's just here, which is disappointing. Let's talk about your fantastic documentary that is now on Motivedia. Guys, go and check it out. It's growing in numbers. A lot of people seem to like it, which is a lot different from the content he normally puts out. So I think it's good that they started to do content like that. Your documentary centers on Kieran Smith, but it really could center on 1,000 different boxers who have the same exact problem. What prompted you to make this documentary?
Well, so it's called Boxing's Purgatory. It's on, as Ade says, it's on Motivedia now. It features all the lovely people that you see before you right now. Basically, me and Kieran were having a chat a while ago, and he'd had to go back to work, which he doesn't mind doing, by the way. I should start off by saying, and he says in the documentary, Kieran's not got an issue with earning a living, but it pissed me off because I've worked with Kieran a couple of times over the last year, and he's really talented, and I go in the gym, and if you follow Kieran on social media, whilst it's not really controversial or anything like that, you just see he's always working. He's always out there grafting. Like, take him in lockdown, for example. Like, I don't know how many, you must have covered thousands and thousands of miles on the road, on your bike, out running, whatever you've been doing, Kieran. You've been an absolute psycho in this lockdown. Like, the stuff he does is just above and beyond what a professional athlete should do. So it's like physically, it's all taken care of. And it upsets me when I look at that level of professionalism and it doesn't get rewarded correctly. So we were chatting a while ago and he was back at work and I just sort of said to him, why don't we try and make something so people can sort of understand what your life is like right now, and just try to help the everyday fan get that it's not always about how good you are. You know, I'm not just going to sit here and say Kieran's world class. I don't actually know how good Kieran is. For everything I've seen, he's very good. But the point of the documentary is, how come he doesn't get a chance to find out how good he is? That's the whole point of it. It's to demonstrate how boxing works and to demonstrate why some guys are getting chances when others aren't, when maybe the talent level's different, maybe the better guy's not getting the shot or whatever. And it's called Boxing's Purgatory because Kieran is very much stuck in that kind of purgatory-like zone where it's like you could go to heaven and reach that like high level where you're earning the millions and you're a world champion, or you could end up quitting with nothing, you know, or you could get really hurt. So that's kind of what it is. So that was basically what it's about, and that was the inspiration behind it. Yeah, and Kieran is he's probably an exemplary person to do it on because, as I say, the physical elements are all taken care of. There's no. It's that classic boxing cliche. There's no stone unturned with Kieran, physically. So it's looking at the other stuff. It's looking at the business.
Kieran, how do you feel about where you are right now? Like Henry said, you tick all the boxes, you're training, you're unbeaten, you live the life. And I think Eddie Hearn mentioned that a few times in the documentary, living the life. You do all that. But on the flip side, some will say, okay, but he's not a ticket seller. He doesn't have a mouthpiece of a promoter. He's not no WWE gimmick in trying to sell the fights. Where do you feel you are because you don't have all those 3 or 4 boxes ticked?
I don't know how the 3 or 4 boxes ticked, but I do have one. I always stay sell tickets. Like, I'm a ticket seller in Scotland, but it's just it's very hard. And me and Henry have spoke about it before, and I've spoke about it with other people as well. Like, people are like, oh, you need to open your mouth, or you need to start calling these people out. You need to start slagging people. And I think it works for people who are naturally like that, whereas it doesn't work for me because it's not who I'm a. It has to kind of be in a part of you to be able to like be a loud mouth and stuff like that, or you just get found out. You just get like, I could go like being a loud mouth for, I don't know, say a month on social media, and everybody's got to be like, what's this guy up to? Like, why is he acting like that? Like, that's not him. Like, who, like, you know what I mean? And then you better being truthful. You know what I mean? And you end up just getting found out yourself. But I believe the chances will come. I believe that's how I'm still here, still doing it, because I believe the chances will come.
Rob, do you think the chances will come? You, on that documentary, you mentioned Terence Crawford as an example, someone that isn't a loudmouth, who's someone maybe outside Omaha doesn't sell tickets, but he's got there just through his boxing ability. Some will say, though, even now looking at Terence Crawford, this is a guy that's a free weight world champion, pound for pounder, still can't get the big fights. So do you think it will come eventually, or the road is just so much longer for people like Kieran?
I wouldn't say so much longer, and it doesn't have to be. And it's Kieran makes a very good point there when he talks about opening your mouth and trying to trash talk when that's not naturally your nature. I think that can do more harm than good. Nobody wants it to feel contrived. Nobody wants to feel like they're being lied to by somebody who's talking trash and just trying to raise some profile. It just doesn't resonate with fans, and it comes off as cringe. Sorry, that's my daughter's just come back, if you can hear. So that's touching on what Kieran said, that's very important, I think. But with regards to, your Terence Crawfords, Andre Ward was another. Even Andre Ward come out as Olympic gold medalist, still had to graft away through the career, had to take an opportunity, which is something that Henry mentioned throughout the documentary, and I know Eddie had mentioned it, and Boazzi, etc. Frampton was, I think, the main person who mentioned the fact that you always have to be ready. Andre Ward had to be ready to Super Six. He went into that Super Six as the bottom seed. He was the underdog in that tournament because nobody knew who he was. Didn't diminish his skills, didn't diminish his talents or anything. Had to get there and eventually got his opportunity, and fought, the best fighters in the world as an underdog, and eventually came out on top. So there was when Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Gennady Golovkin were middleweight, and they were kind of hovering around the same time. Triple G just come out of Germany, signing for HBO, and they were both kind of marketed around each other and kind of who was going to be the big star. And obviously everybody goes for Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. because his dad's famous. He's got this big Mexican following in Mexico, but you must be able to fight. You have to be able to stand the test of time. You can be as marketable as you want, but marketability is all very well and good. Eventually, that's going to lead you to a big, big fight, and you're going to have to perform. Now, we watched Chavez Jr. versus Canelo. We watched Chavez Jr. versus Danny Jacobs. We watched Chavez Jr. versus Andre Fonfara. All of these fights where, yes, he's come in with this hysteria and this massive following behind him, and he's underperformed when it's mattered in the ring. Somebody like a Terence Crawford, or even, go way back, Joe Louis. I mean, it's obviously a completely different time, but he was
going way back, isn't it?
Way back. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, you don't have to shout and scream. It could probably help you get shortcuts in some areas, but eventually you're going to have to be able to fight, and your skills are going to have to do the talking for you. Adrian Broner, he's four-weight world champion. Yes, he's still going to get big paydays and stuff like that, but is he around at the top level of the sport? And I mean the top level of the sport. No, he's not. So, it's easier to get a following and it's easier to get a fan base when you're out there and you're on social media and stuff like that. But when push comes to shove, you still have to be able to fight. You still have to be ready and prepared.
Kieran, has anyone come up to you, management, friends, family, and said, okay, look, you do need to add this persona, this mystique? Rob mentioned Adrian Broner there, for example. Ryan Garcia's of the world, people that have this persona about them. Has anyone ever said, you need to change your laid back character and come out a bit more? Has anyone ever said that?
No, I've never had it. I've never had it from management side or my family or anything like that. I've had it from just general population of people, like friends and that, saying, oh, you should do this or you should do that. And then I've just like what I touched on there before, I'm like, I could do this, but then I would need to sustain it, and it's not sustainable for me because it's not who I am. So I've never written friends and like obviously family and management stuff like that, like people really close to me. They know what I'm like. They know it's not me, so they would never like try and push me into that situation. Really.
I mean, it's kind of it's just, sorry to interrupt, but it's kind of a philosophical question about how you want to be seen in life. I mean, if you know, you get famous by being somebody that you're not, what does that say? You know, it's difficult. Like, would you want that? Would any of us want that? You know, for people to think we're something we're not, you know, and be famous for that. I mean, it's very difficult. And I think it says a lot about Kieran's character that he'd rather be off doing hard manual labor, 19-hour shifts, and then going and doing a training session than going online and being a bit of a dick. So it's
interesting though, because I obviously follow mixed martial arts, and there's a couple of guys in there. Henry Cejudo's one of them, and Kobe Covington. These are guys that have openly come out and said these are characters we're playing, just because they know they're going in there, and they were getting at the time, I think 40-40, so 40,000 to show, 40,000 to win. They've made these characters and won their fights, granted, and now these guys are getting hundreds and thousands. So they've done that knowing purposely that we have to change our character to, unfortunately, get eyes on us, get pushed a bit more, because that's what promoters seem to want.
It's also worth pointing out that it's not just as simple as grabbing a mic and shouting and screaming. You know, people have to find something that's going to resonate with the public. Now, I don't know a lot about MMA, but I know Colby Covington's like a big Trump guy. He's a big Make America Great Again. That's a polarizing topic. That's something that's going to shift the needle one way or another. So it's, you know, there are ways, again, to grab the attention. But it's as Kieran said, you know, do you really want to keep doing that? Like, do you really want to keep playing a character and playing this fake? It's just not sustainable for somebody who is not that way inclined. I can't think of anybody who is a completely different person who does that, but is completely different off camera. I can't think of any.
What was you going to say, Kieran?
What I was going to say was just with the Josh Warrington and the Leeds, just as he was saying about like creating it for the general public. I've been to a couple of Josh Warrington's fights, and no disrespect to Josh Warrington, but some of the guys have just been on the lash all day for the football. Go to the Josh Warrington fights, and they don't see a fight if they even see Josh Warrington's fight. But he's created this massive football following from there, just through being a Leeds fan. And it's things like that can link you to it, but it's finding the right thing, because I'm not into football.
Get into football, son. Get into football. It's a good time to support Liverpool. What's going on now, Kieran? Obviously, Matchroom have put on their fight camp. We've all seen some of the names in that fight camp. Some guys that I know you want to mix it with, 154-pounders. There, some very good ones. Was you approached about fighting some of these guys? Why are you not on in that fight camp?
No, I wasn't approached to fight any of them.
See, that just pisses me off. I can't lie to you. I'm trying to hold back here. But that just, I mean, and look, people from the outside looking in will look at your record, they'll look at the title you've got and say, why is it you're not getting those chances? It makes me question, what's the relevance of a WBC international silver belt if you can't get on these shows?
Exactly. There's that many different organisations and governing bodies that people they'll just find another title in another organisation, another governing body to create these fights so that it kind of stays in-house. Like Eddie Hearn will have Eddie Hearn's boys fighting Eddie Hearn's, stuff like that, so that the promoter always wins. It's business. It's business at the end of the day, isn't it? So the promoter's always going to be the one looking to win, whether it's Top Rank, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, any of them. They always want to be in the driving seat. They don't want to put their guy in a 50-50 fight with no benefit at the back yet unless he wins. They always want the odds to be stacked in their favour. So I think that's just kind of where I'm kind of stuck at, because I've not got a massive promoter at the back of me at the moment. although I do have MTK that are they were putting big shows on in Scotland before all the lockdown, and hopefully after lockdown and everything eases off and we can get people back in arenas and stuff, then things will start moving again.
Rob, what a phrase that was used a lot in that documentary was the "Who Needs Them" club. What can boxers do that are stuck in the "Who Needs Them" club?
I think Eddie hit the nail on the head in that when he said that the "Who Needs Them" club, depending on what level of course, I think promoting is changing now. He made a good point with the likes of Gennady Golovkin back in the day. I mentioned him already, coming out of Germany. He didn't have a TV deal. He had a secondary title, so he had the WBA regular for a long time. He didn't speak any English, so he was very much a "Who Needs Them" club. But now with the sport moving a lot more digital, fighters being able to use social media, you've seen like Ryan Garcia and everybody, and but that could really be anybody building their profile. It's more difficult to ignore those people, or it's certainly easier for them to get themselves out there. But if you're talking about kind of the "Who Needs Them" club on the small hall, Eddie was good there. He said that they are noticed, they are kept an eye on. So you just have to keep your head down, and it might be a case of you taking a fight on short notice, or taking a fight that you may not have thought would be presented to you, maybe a bit bigger of a step up than you thought, or certainly a perceived step up, and you just have to be ready. You have to trust in the process. I mean,
isn't that just fucked up though?
Yeah, it is, but it's the business, unfortunately.
Like, you could be doing nothing, and then you get a phone call from a top promoter who says, okay, are you going to be ready in 3 weeks? And you have to take that fight. You have to try and cut weight. You have to try and put the miniest of camps together and then roll the dice. And no one is at home knowing this. So they'll look at someone that comes in on short notice. They're blown out of their ass after 3 rounds, and everyone questions why. No one knows what's really going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and
that's the business perspective.
Yeah,
that's the business perspective, and it's went on for long before my time, generations.
That's the thing.
Kieran, how quickly could you? Sorry to interrupt. How quickly could you actually make 154, Kieran? Because for those that haven't seen the documentary, sitting there right now, you won't be able to tell how big Kieran is, but he's 6'2" and he fights 154 pounds. So it's not easy, is it?
No, that's another problem for me. Like to phone me in 2 weeks and say, "Oh, can you cut up to 154 pounds in 2 weeks to fight for such and such title?" It's pretty impossible, and I've got to weigh up like what you're saying about rolling the dice. I've got to weigh up like the pros and cons of that, because even though I'm in the gym all the time, me cutting to 154 pounds in a matter of days is definitely going to have a massive impact on my performance.
And that's the thing. It's all right for people like me or other people to say, "Oh, well, you just got to stay ready, mate. You just got to stay in shape and hope that the phone rings." It's one thing saying that, and it's another thing the phone ringing. And we're now in a position where after coronavirus and after lockdown, people are going to have to take fights that even beforehand, as desperate as they would have been, they wouldn't have, because financially it dictates that they have to do that now. So you're going to see people who are doing more and more dangerous weight cuts, which is a real horrible thing to think of, because cutting weight at the best of time and under the best of situations ain't fucking pretty. Kieran will tell you that. And I've been close to a few fighters when they've been making weight for championship fights. It ain't nice. And now you kind of throw into the fact that people are more desperate for fights, and that the opportunities are, while different, they're naturally going to be less because there's no small hall shows. It's very all well and good saying, "Oh, just stay in shape, mate, and if the phone rings, get in there." But unfortunately, the alternative is what?
But you surely have to think that, and I fully understand that, by the way, that sometimes you just have to, wait for that phone call. When it does come, take it. But surely someone like Kieran, who's in a position of 16-0, who's ranked by the WBC, has a silver title, that shouldn't happen to him anymore. He shouldn't be at that stage in his career where he's now waiting by the phone for a late notice call up. Surely you get past that. No? Am I in dreamland world here? Like at 16-0, surely there's a time when you fucking aren't waiting by the phone call, waiting for your manager to say, okay, we've got a late notice call up. That can't work at 16-0, can it? Or what?
But I mean, you go through history and even like modern day. I mean, it's obviously apples and oranges in different situations, but you've got world level fighters who can't get a fight. You've had world champions who have been frozen out of the sport and not given opportunities. And again, it's a completely different thing to talk about a world champion compared to somebody like Kieran at his stage of his career. But it happens at every stage of boxing. And Kieran was right. It comes down to the business aspect of the sport, whether or not you're a 16-0 and have the WBC's international silver title, or you have the you're a WBC world champion. If the opportunities aren't there to make sense for the promoter who's putting the show on, you're not going to get the opportunity. It's not right, but it is just the situation that they're in. And you know, you get to a point in the early stage of your career where you do get to a point like Kieran is at his career, where he's got a good title, he's got a decent ranking, and he's got a good record, where promoters will look at you and think and weigh up the pros and cons, and they'll look at somebody like Kieran and say, okay, well, he's got a decent title, but he can fight a bit. Is my fighter going to get credit for beating him? I don't know. What happens if my fighter loses to him? So 154 pounds, for example. Does Eddie Hearn want to risk Cheeseman, Fowler, Fitzgerald, Kieran Conway, any of those guys who can realistically fight each other at least once to satisfy Kieran, who they can just push to one side, leave in Scotland, and then get on with their business? They're not going to do it.
Should it be upset Eddie Hearn? I mean, surely it gets to a stage where the British Boxing Board of Control should be in a position, especially when it comes to mandatories, and it should almost be forced on a promoter. So it shouldn't be a case of, okay, we'll look at Kieran and say, we don't fancy that one for Eggington or Fowler or Cheeseman. Shouldn't it be the British Boxing Board of Control? These guys have the titles or any of the sanctioning bodies and say, well, Kieran is ranked just below you. That's the next fight up.
The British Boxing Board of Control is a business. It's the same thing. It's a business just like anything else. Like any other governing body, they're going to do what works for them. You know, people make out like, oh, well, what about the board? Or what about the governing body? Like it's anything different. It's no different. It's no different. There is no independent, you know, non-profit organization who's looking out for the welfare of people. They don't do that. It's a business. Just, you know, people saying, well, the board, how many times do we see circulars for title fights that never happen from the board?
You see at the end of the documentary, Kieran's ordered to fight Fowler for a final eliminator for the British title. If everyone watched that far, and you know, so
yeah, exactly. And what happens? That Eddie looks at that and goes, "Yeah,
no, thank you."
Get Robert Smith on the phone.
Kieran, how do you feel? You're someone watching that documentary. You stay in shape. You're in the gym. Then you do a 19-hour shift with your brother-in-law, which is a weird dynamic. How do you feel knowing that literally it's just anything can happen here? There is no plan. It's just literally anything can happen.
That's how my moods are so up and down quite a lot of the time, because it's like you just don't know. People have got plans set out, like what you're saying. So other fighters, and they've all got these time schedules they're just working towards and around their life. They can plan their life. I can't plan a holiday. I could anyway at the moment, but I can't
you
plan.
and me both, mate.
I can't plan like 2 weeks ahead because I don't know when the phone's going to ring, what's going to happen, and I've just kind of really been getting on with it at the best of times now. But so it does it grinds you down sometimes, because some days you're like, why am I in the gym? Like, why am I here again? And you've got other fighters that are like, they're not in the gym, they're resting because they've got to start fight camps, and you're like, am I overdoing this? Because by the time I actually go to a fight camp, I'm maybe going to be burnt out. And then it's like, but what if the phone rings and they want you to go in 4 weeks? And you're just stuck right in the middle. But it's not fair, but life's not fair. You know what I mean? That's another thing that I wanted to touch on as well. Like, see the Who Needs Them club and stuff. I didn't want anybody to think, oh, poor Kieran, Oh, it's like poor little Kieran up in Scotland. Like it's totally not my style. Like it's life shit sometimes, and shit happens. You know what I mean? That's it.
How did you feel? It's a bit random here, but how did you feel when you heard that Ryan Garcia turned down $200,000 for a fight?
I didn't feel anything, because it doesn't surprise you, does it? When they guys are making tens of thousands of marketing. They're not even throwing punches and making tens of thousands of pounds. You know what I mean? They're standing with a set of clothes on and throwing, I don't know, like hitting punch bags and stuff like that, and making tens of thousands of pounds without taking any damage, without anything, just because of their profiles. So it's not even surprising, to be honest.
Henry, there's an argument though that says, look, all the fighters have the same social medias, right? All of them have got Instagram, all of them have got YouTube and Twitter. Surely these fighters now, back in the day, Don King was the mouthpiece for you, and Bob Arum and the rest. Surely it's the fighters now that have to use the same tools they've all got to really promote themselves outside of boxing as well. Like what Rob said, we're seeing Ryan Garcia do.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that's the part of it where you can kind of become more self-made as a boxer. But like we said, only if you've got the right ingredients. If you're that right kind of character that is out there on social media, being funny every day, or calling people out, being super aggressive, being a bit of a fuckboy, if that's what you want to call it. Like that's what a lot of them are doing. Like it's the reality of it. So I don't know. It's a difficult one. I think you see it in a lot of industries now. You see it in the music industry as well, which is probably a closer comparison to boxing than like any other sport. Because at the end of the day, it's like you've got to sell tickets. And you see it a lot in stuff like that, where artists are now able, because of the internet, to put their own music out and things like that. I mean, you can't put your own show on as a fighter, but you can get your brand out there and sell yourself. So it's good in many ways. It's bad in other ways. I think the one thing that we didn't touch on in the documentary, which I thought about, was KSI and Logan Paul and their fight. I think it's a whole topic in itself, and it's. I think what we're talking about today is a lot of people got really angry about that happening. I'm really upset about it. I remember we spoke about it.
I was mixed. I'm now more not upset. I think when it first landed, I was like, "What the fuck's going on?" But now I was like, "Well, hey."
But if you're involved in the boxing game and you look at guys like Kieran, we can't even get like a fight to move their ranking up, or just to find out if they're at British level, and then you've got these guys who, they're the embodiment of this business side of the game we're talking about, where they have no boxing experience. They're not good boxers, but they get the headline a boxing card. It's like, what? So they show you how unreal. If you get your social media right, they show you how ridiculously effective it can be. But it's a difficult one to answer, Addy. It's very hard to say. I think because of the way, like Kieran said in the documentary, well, he didn't say it in these words, but he knows what boxing is, and if you're in it, you know what you've got to do to sell tickets. So in a way, you could argue Kieran's doing himself a disservice not trying to do something with his social media to like draw more fans. But at the same time, like you've got to live by who you are at the end of the day, like he said. So it's a very difficult one. Very difficult.
Rob, if you were, and I think you actually could be a good boxing manager, I really do. But if you were a boxing manager, Rob, and you had someone like a Kieran that's ticking his boxes, right? He's going in there to go into the ring and do his job. What other advice would you give him when he's in this situation now where, unfortunately, he is in the Who Needs Him club? What advice would you give a boxer, not just like Kieran, but like any boxer coming through?
It's difficult to kind of give a blanket answer on something like that, because as one thing that we've kind of ironed out here is that different things are going to work for different people. Now, if Kieran is not interested in going and shouting and screaming and calling out every fighter in his division and in the division above, that's absolutely fine. But there are other things that you can do to raise your profile in certain ways. You can engage and interact with your fans, but that's only going to do so much.
Feature in a documentary. I think that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, keep doing documentaries with Henry. But, you know, opportunities can come in. I've heard of all kinds of ways that fights get made, and I can't say some of them, but, you know, not being scared to kind of to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Now, obviously, at the minute with coronavirus, etc., this doesn't apply. But, you know, I know fighters who are always ready to go and spar at world-class gyms, who are always, you know, Kieran will tell you this, there are always fighters who are called when somebody drops out of sparring to come and give somebody 6 rounds or 8 rounds. And you have to be ready to do that. I know fighters who are not comfortable with doing stuff like that, which is absolutely fine. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that is what a fighter needs to do. A fighter needs to be able to be willing at the drop of a hat to go, and that can lead somewhere, because you could spar somebody who 2, 3, 4, 5 fights down the line might have climbed the ladder, whereas you haven't, and then all of a sudden you get brought into that camp for sparring when they're about to fight for a British title, for a European title, for a world title. Their trainer remembers you down the line. And that's how you start building your network and your connections. You can build your network and your connections on the inside of boxing, as well as the social media side of things. You don't have to exclusively do that, but you have to be doing as much as you can on both sides of the ring rope, so to speak. So I don't think there's not a blanket answer. And at the end of the day, you are always going to be at the mercy of the promoters who are putting the shows on. That's absolutely, you know, there's no getting away from that. But you can live outside your comfort zone where you can, and get the opportunities as they pop up. But there isn't really, there's not a blanket answer for it.
All right, we're back after my cheap Zoom locked out. We're using Rob Tebbutt. Rob, thank you very much. Kieran, just before we got locked out, I was going to ask you about calling out fighters. You're in a very good division in this country right now. But some will say that maybe you should start using your voice and call out some of the guys, the Fowlers, the Eggingtons, the Cheesemans. What do you say to that?
I say, like, I'm happy to call it fighters, but it's not certain. There's no certain fighter. There's got to be a rivalry, a certain rivalry to a fighter that makes you want to call them out. Now, the biggest one to be calling out now is Scott Fitzgerald, because he's actually got the British title. So apart from that, I would like to be approached and asked to fight for like another title or whatnot against one of these top fighters, which I would obviously take. But me calling out, I think it kind of goes back to the topic we spoke about before, about like kind of not being your character, because I'd then be picking out one who's not got a British title or anything for me to like rivalry for me to be picking out, and so I'd need to start kind of making up fake kind of like, I don't know, fake. But
I guess the call out could be a case of, I want to prove that I'm the best in Britain. I want to prove it. And right now, I think when you ask a lot of the casual boxing fans, who, let's be honest, they're the ones that put the money in boxing, they would mention a lot of the top 154 pounders. They probably won't mention you. They'll probably do Fitzgerald. They'll probably say Cheeseman. They'll probably say Fowler. They probably might not mention yourself. So surely the call out should be a case of, well, I want to prove that I'm the best. I want to prove I'm better than you. So I'm not calling you out disrespectfully, but I'm calling you out because I want to challenge you to show I am the best in Britain.
Yeah, I
want to be your manager. Fuck your manager. Get me in. Let me be your voice.
No, definitely, you're right there. But it's like, for them, it's risk versus reward on their side and promoter side again. And I know the business. I know the business side of things, and that's how, like, I'm not in a great position to be the guy. They're like, all right, you're calling me out, so what are you going to offer me then? I'm like, I don't know. That's kind of up to you. You know what I mean?
That's so fair.
You make a great point. It's a great point.
It is.
Says, I'm the best in the country. I want to prove I'm the best in Britain. And you say, go fuck off to the amateurs then and win a gold medal. This is the professional game. This isn't about, like, don't get me wrong, yes, it's great and a wonderful, idealised fucking kicking through the leaves. Yes, everybody wants to know who the best in the world is. We want the number one, yes. But it's not like that. It's not like that. It's a business. You can't tempt someone into the ring by, like don't get me wrong, like, once you get to the very, very elite echelons of the sport where money is no object and you already have hundreds and hundreds of millions and it's, again, built on ego, then maybe that could work. But obviously we've seen how complex it can be at the top of the sport as well. There's a lot more that goes to that. But, you know, at this point of Kieran's career, at this point of kind of British title level and around that level, the kind of, oh, let's prove who's the best in Britain. It's kind of like, well, no, mate, because I actually want to win a world title. How often do we hear that from British level fighters who say, well, you know, I tell you what, if, you know, I'll carry on my path and he'll carry on his path and then we'll meet for a world title, or maybe we can meet for unification, or maybe
That's so true.
Business. Like, people are not going to do that. I can't remember. I mean, maybe Dubois, Joyce, but again, that's kind of like different, like two guys who don't really need to fight each other around the same sort of level who are actually doing it. And then before then, you got, like, I don't know, Josh Taylor or Hara Davis. That was kind of like, again, I don't know how well you know Josh, Kieran, but
I'm pretty friendly.
Yeah, Josh is not somebody who's going to shout and scream from the rooftops and stuff, but if somebody comes to him and it's organic, Hara Davis has wound him up, they've been the needle, they've been the back and forth, all of a sudden you create a narrative. Now, if Josh, who at the time, by his own admission, wasn't a very well-known fighter, jumped all over social media and started calling Hara Davis out and he was the one instigating it, would that fight have necessarily happened? No. Or would it have been as big as it was? No. It had to have, you know, Hara Davis, who at the time was a matchroom fighter, boxing on Sky Sports, you know, main eventing shows. He had to come to the table for Josh, not the other way around. And now you look at Josh, he's a unified champion. You know, but he had to have somebody who is nowhere near as good a fighter as him come to him and try and and they built this thing together. And that's kind of what we've spoken about with.
So if Kieran doesn't have a protagonist, which he doesn't, right? There is no one screaming like what Hara Davis did to Josh Taylor. There is no one like that. He doesn't have a protagonist. He's not going to call someone out himself. He's not with one of the big promoters, right? And he doesn't have a promoter that's a mouthpiece. I mean, what's he boxing for then? Like, where's this opportunity coming from? Because I don't see how this opportunity happens anytime soon. And it's okay to say, okay, but it's gonna come. It's gonna come. It came to Golovkin when Golovkin was 34. So yeah, you'll get there. We know eventually if you do the right things, live the right life, you'll get there. But it's gonna take years to get there. It took years for Golovkin to get there. It's gonna take years.
And he was, you know, an Olympic silver medalist with 300 odd amateur fights and what have you. But
yeah,
there is no answer, which is what made for such a great documentary. Again, hacked it. And you know, which is why we're doing this interview now. We're like
great participants, I have to say. You know,
yeah.
There is no answer. You know, one thing I will say is that, you know, not every bit of PR has to be you calling somebody out, and it doesn't have to be always negative. Joseph Parker is a shining example of that during lockdown. You know, we've seen fighters as well raise their profile by doing outreach work within their own communities. That's always positive. That's something that can get you on the front page of the local newspaper as opposed to the back page. You know, there's little things that you can explore and you can take different routes. There isn't, you know, there isn't a guide to it for a small hall fighter to get up there. You know, Josh Warrington, he was, as Kieran said, able to kind of garner this huge football support behind him, which allowed him to pack out small halls, and then you get your opportunities through that way. But if you don't have that, then, you know, there's various suggestions, and none of them are ironclad or definite. None of them.
I mean, sorry, that's right. If with Kieran, and I've said it to him before, me and Kieran both love David Goggins. For me, the thing to me that stands out most for Kieran is that he is constantly doing these physical challenges that like a normal person does not do. Like the other day, he did 10 hours on a bike doing Tour de France time trials, like 10 consecutive Tour de France time trials. And like he did like 3 days preparation for it or something. Like the guy's a freak when it comes to like physicality, and it's quite inspirational really. I'd say the only thing Kieran doesn't do that someone like a Goggins would do is he's always screaming motivational phrases while he's doing it and all that kind of stuff. You know, Kieran's not Americanized in that way. He kind of gets his head down and does it, and then dies off the lactic acid afterwards like a normal person. But Kieran isn't. To anyone watching, go and look at Kieran's profile and some of the stuff he does, because he is a freak physically, man. Some of the stuff he does is outrageous.
I didn't see that. Did you stream that? Did you do anything with it?
I streamed. I was clicking in and out on. It wasn't the other day, by the way. That was the other month.
Oh, lockdown's mixed every day together for me, so it felt like the other day.
No, it was April, but I was just coming in and out of Instagram Live, just so I wasn't on Instagram Live for 10 hours.
Yeah.
Just like probably people just being annoyed at everything you go on their Instagram and then Kieran's live, because you know what it's like when you click on someone else's live and you didn't mean it and you're like, shit, get out. But I streamed it on Facebook Live. The full thing was on Facebook Live as well. And I put a couple of posts up just through various Twitter and stuff like that.
Well, send it to me.
Sorry?
Next time you do something like that, send it to me.
Right, no problem, we'll do.
And I'll put it up on Boxing Social.
We'll do.
My
goes for anything.
My channel's not as big, by the way, Kieran, but I can put it up. It's just it's about a quarter the size of his channel, but yeah, it's still some publicity.
I wanted to ask Kieran as well before I forget. Obviously, you were ordered to fight foul in that final eliminator, and then on fight camp, I believe he's fighting Adam Harper. Weren't you supposed to be fighting Harper like a year ago or a couple of years ago?
Yes, March 2019. I was supposed to fight Adam Harper. Pulled out with 6 days to go with I don't want to say a brain injury, but it was something to do with his medical, his brain.
Right.
And I believe he's not fought since, and now he's just came back out the woodwork and he's fighting Anthony Fowler.
That's just so boxing.
That is everything I need to know about this sport, if I'm honest with you.
50-50 fights only, eh?
What I want to say though is about that is if it's genuine about Adam Harper, if that is actually genuine, then I think Adam Harper's coaches and management should be stating in round about him, because Anthony Fowler is a powerful 154-pound fighter, and if this guy's had brain issues already and he's just willing to take the risk, I think there should be somebody stating in there saying, now we have to get you back in with like fighting first with a journeyman, or we'll have to have you sparring under and see how you're feeling, see how things are going before you take a big risk fight like that again, because that's dangerous if he has had issues with his brain before.
Yeah, let's put that in.
His fight with Fowler will be his first fight in nearly 2 years.
Yes.
Boxed Billy Bird for the English title in September of 2018.
Yep.
I'm obviously assuming, that the brain, you, as Kieran will know, as people who follow boxing will know, sometimes you can get irregularities with a brain scan.
Yeah.
But this is another issue with boxing, right? Like, you can get an issue with a brain scan from one doctor or one scan, and you can go and get it done somewhere else by a different doctor, and you're all good. That's just, again, the fact that boxing doesn't have an overseeing agency or an overseeing governing body that can say, well, hang on, mate, how can you get told that you can't fight by this doctor, but you can fight by this one? Now, Josh Pritchard, somebody who jumps to mind, formerly trained by Shane McGuigan, now part of Shane McGuigan's training setup, he had a Cavanova on his brain. He, I think, was 6-0, highly touted prospect, had to call quits on his career. Now, he could have got licensed in various different territories. He could have gone to box in Mexico and carried on his career,
100%.
but you take the wrong shot at the wrong time and all of a sudden you're dead. Now, testament to his management, who at the time, they gave him every opportunity, took him to every single doctor that he could have gone to, and it was still that overriding feeling of, okay, but this doctor says that if you take a shot on there, you could die. So they drew a line under his career. Now, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of Adam Harper. Hopefully everything's been observed in the way that it should be. But yeah, that's concerning to hear that. But that's boxing. That's boxing. If I bring this up to whoever in boxing in an interview, they'll say, well, you know, he's been to see the doctor says he's fine, he's cleared to fight. And then that's it. That's it. Then if God forbid, sorry, Addy, God forbid something happens to Adam Harper and he is, he's damaged forever, or he can never fight again and can never provide money for his family, what happens? They say, oh, well, he was cleared to fight, and then they move on to the next show.
Knowing all this, I guess we all know the ins and outs of this sport. Kieran, do you still love boxing?
I love it and I hate it. It's a love-hate relationship. But no, if you ask me, I still love boxing, but I'm still in the gym every day. Before lockdown, I was still watching fights every weekend, sitting with my dad, watching fights every Saturday night. So, I still love it.
What about you, Henry? Still love it?
I was saying to you the other day, Addy, it's like when you're aware of all this crap that we're talking about right now, it makes the lows that much lower, but it makes the highs that much higher as well. So when you see someone doing well, when you see a success story, when you see a fighter that you like their style or whatever, when you see them win, you have an awareness of what all the shit they've had to wade through in the business sense of things to get to that point. It does make it that much. It makes the ecstasy that much higher. It makes it that much sweeter. And it really is that kind of American dream sport where, you know, the top 0.1% have all the money and all the success. And in that way, it's like, you know, it's just, as I say, the highs, they're just so high. And like, you just get so excited when you see a fighter that you love winning.
Someone like yourself, Rob, that's fully immersed in the sport. It's your job, you know, put some money on the table, as they say. You still love boxing?
I think what Kieran said resonates with me. I look at boxing a little bit like an abusive relationship.
Oh, God.
In a sense of you keep going back because you think, you know, this time it will be different. He says he loves me. This was just a one-off. This is never going to happen again. He was thinking about me the whole time. And then you go back and it happens again. And then you like, so, you know, I say that obviously somewhat tongue in cheek, but it is true. It is true. It grows increasingly difficult to justify. I feel like I'm constantly justifying the sport. Now, I loved the sport. I used to spend just as much time, you know, on forums and talking about the sport with friends as I do now when I'm working in the sport. But the only difference being that now as you rightly say, this is how I earn money for my family. And it goes back to what I said somewhat at the start of the interview, as being part of the media makes you feel somewhat complicit. Who am I to crow about the various things in boxing that, you know, the hypocrisies and the things that happen within the sport, yet being as part of the media, while I feel like I try and do my best at all times, there are issues that happen behind the sport that I can't talk about through threat of, you know, legal action or being barred from shows or whatever. So who am I to get on my high horse and say about, oh, well, this is terrible or that's terrible? And, you know, there's so much hypocrisy all over the sport that it's difficult to kind of to have a moral standpoint yet still profit from the sport. It is very difficult. And the only people who I feel that can reasonably make those stances are fighters themselves who are going through it. I mean, I'm certainly not one of these people who, I mean, I don't know if Kieran is, hopefully he's not, but I'm certainly not one of these people who thinks that, oh, well, you know, unless you're getting in there yourself, you can't have your own opinion. I think that you can, but I do feel like there's certain moral standpoints that should be reserved specifically for the fighters and the people going through it themselves. But yeah, to answer your question, I look at boxing as an addiction. I constantly do it. I have to do it all the time. Once I've finished it or once something happens, you feel like, shit, I'm never going to do that again. But you wake up the next morning and you're back on it again and you need it again and you're chasing it. And you say the highs, Henry, are so high and the lows are so low. Ade, we've been there at big fights, you know, Joshua Ruiz too. And Wilder Fury 2 going around Vegas. No, that's fantastic. Yes, that's great. But that's one show in 1 year or 2 shows in 1 year. The rest of the time, you're justifying the sport and you're dealing with all of this bullshit to try and chase that high again of getting to Vegas and getting to Madison Square Garden and seeing this, or, how many fights on a card realistically are great fights? Not many, but you sift through all of the shit ones in the hope that there'll be a good one because it will get the heart going again and get the juices flowing, like an addiction. That's how.
Rob, that's so true what you say about justifying the sport as well. Like, the number of times I find myself trying to explain to people why I like boxing, like it's actually quite hard. It's not as straightforward as you think. Just saying like why you like other sports, It's you're constantly justifying your enjoyment of it. You really are.
Love the fight and hate the business.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying it. Kieran, last point, question for you. What's your dream scenario in 2021? I've already written off 2020, but dream scenario in 2021, dream fight. Where's Kieran Smith at the end of 2021?
Dream scenario would be, I would say my dream scenario would be pretty much similar to Rocky Fielding's. That would be my dream scenario.
Knocked out by Canelo.
A couple of million in the bank.
I'd let Canelo beat the shit out of me.
I would take a body blow like Rocky did. I wouldn't take a headshot. I'll take a body blow that Rocky did for the money.
Yeah.
When he fought for his world title on 5 weeks' notice, just because it just basically came out the woodwork. That's obviously a dream situation, but realistically in 2021, I want to fought and won British Commonwealth titles, be moving on, and push myself on into big fights.
Well, Kieran, I wish you good luck. Henry, well done with the documentary. Rob, can you stop stroking that fucking beard? It's actually putting me off. They're perfect strokes. No, well, you do that then. You're doing like a perfect stroke.
All I feel is baby bum smooth skin when I touch my face.
Stop it, Tom Holland. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Adam, can we get a link in the description? Can we get a link in the description for the documentary as well?
Oh, that means obviously my channel's relatively big and people might obviously go to it. Certainly.
Boxing social in it as well.
You don't need it. You don't.
Kieran Smith social media as well.
How close is Boxing Social to 100,000 now?
We've gone nowhere, mate. In the last couple of months, subs have really. This is a conversation for a different time, but
yeah,
YouTube's not been spectacular for us for a few months, but we've done great across all other social platforms.
Well done, guys. Keep it up. Same for me as well, by the way. Not that it matters too much, but same for me as well. Guys, thank you so much. We don't count you yet. You're on your way up though, son. We don't count you yet.
Next documentary, by the way, is going to be about Ade versus the Rogue, Bathroom Tyler. That's what's coming up next.
Ade?
Yeah.
Bathroom Tyler. Yeah. We won't talk about that. We won't even talk about that. Guys, thank you so much. Honestly, I've enjoyed it much.
Thanks a lot.
Kieran, I wish you good luck with your future and fingers crossed you get those big fights in 2021. Fingers crossed you fight in 2020, but let's hope you can get something in 2021.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, guys.